have players just 1 hour a week versus players you have 2 to 6 hours a week?
So I think this is where the confusion comes in with training players and practicing. Is if you have a player that you only have once a week for an hour, or even maybe 2 hours a week, you don't really have sufficient time to really groove their strokes, right? To a level where they may play college or pro. I mean, obviously there's exceptions. The person is unbelievably athletic and they just, they're a genius, right? Physically, mentally, and emotionally. They can just do it. But that's rare, very rare you see that. So if you have them 1 or 2 hours a week, I say, we've taken players, even beginners or intermediates that just come out and they want to learn how to play the game. We teach them technique in the context of serving in the next shot, returning in the next shot, and we're looking at their technique and training their technique within that. Now, that takes you've got to be able to simplify how you teach a forehand, backhand, serve, but it can be done. That's the art of coaching, right? You've got to be creative and you've got to be simple, and because they've got to think about, okay, I need to maintain these 2 shots with good technique, a good follow through, good backswing. And so there's a system where we work a few minutes on their stroke, maybe a forehand, and then we put them right into return and return 1, and they have to hit both forehands. And then we work a little bit on their backhand, and then we put them into R and R1, return and return +1, and then they do both backhands. And then we do back and forth, forehand, backhand, forehand. And then we do it like that. So it's progressive, simple stages, and just getting them through it. And it's not confusing. I mean, we have players that are coming out, they don't know a thing about tennis, and they're able to actually comprehend it easier because they make a connection between, wait a minute, this is how I'm going to play the game. So I've got to see if I can maintain my technique within playing these first 2 shots and then the next 2 shots and beyond that. So that's how we're doing it, and it's actually working better than just because I've done it both ways. I mean, I've taken a player that never played tennis before and perfected their strokes for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. And then we start getting into patterns of play and tactics and things like that, and they fall apart. Like their forehand is beautiful when you feed it, but when they start connecting it with a serve and return and the movement associated with that, it's almost like they don't even know where they are. So I've done it both ways, and this way we're getting much better results faster. All the players from young to adult are walking off the practice court and they love their practices. They want to come back, they want to practice like this more, and then they're going to play matches and they're getting better results because their practices actually look and feel like match play.
So would you say that's what you noticed as the biggest difference with players that practice with the TPC system versus?
That is the biggest difference that we've noticed in our junior players and our adult players and everybody in between is that, number one, they have more joy in learning the game. They are playing more. It looks and feels like the match court to a higher degree. And they're just so much more satisfied with their practices. They felt like that they could really take away what they did. It was going to be applicable. That there was, we see the disconnects starting to break down between how I perform my forehand, how I perform my backhand in relationship to movement and responding from one shot to another. Because returning the ball from the deuce court is completely different than returning it from the ad with regards to movement. One, you're moving back to your left, the other you're moving to your right. And so there's an orientation mentally with that movement, and then proceeding into the R1. Same thing with the serve. I mean, you're serving, you're resetting, and there's this disorientation that always happens with equilibrium in your brain. You land, and then you got to kind of collect yourself, and your eyes are moving, and then you got to readjust and focus, and that is something that's got to be practiced. And if you don't practice it in practice, you start doing it in a match, it doesn't hold up. Maybe the forehand and backhand hold up when you get into a rally, but to me, that's the easier part of the point, because you're more in the flow, you're more in a rhythm, the timing is there. It's much harder to start off a point and start it off well than to actually get into a point and feel the flow of the rally. So it's the starting the point we found is the biggest difference between a player that can win more matches and the player that's losing matches. And we're seeing it from red ball, orange ball, green ball, yellow, all levels. So we're excited about that.
What do you see as the future of tennis coaching here in the U.S. and in other countries around the world?
Well, I think the future of tennis coaching has to do with embracing technology. I think smartphones are going to get smarter. I think they're going to come with more memory. So that means you're going to be able to video a lot more without your phone your memory just dying on you. I think there's going to be apps coming that are going to take that video and break it down, and you're going to see patterns happen. I mean, I think technology is going to blow up in the next decade. We're creating an app now called Tennis Map Play, and it does this basically you're tracking the number of successful hits over the net, and then it generates charts that actually paint a picture and tell a story of what the match was like. And it's fascinating because our parents that are beta testing it, they're loving it because it's helping them stay engaged in doing something, and they don't feel emotionally overwhelmed watching their player. And so it's helping calm parents down, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to develop something and put it in parents' hands to calm them down. Because I'm a parent, and when I watch my kids play, I want to help them too. Like, I want them to win, and I don't want to see them lose, and I want to see that I'm spending money and it's not being wasted, and they're spending a lot of money on practices, but they can't perform in the match. I mean, I'm vested, right? But you can get really emotional, right? Because you want your kids to succeed. And so I wanted to put a tool in the parents' hands to actually feel like they're contributing to the process. They're giving the coach and the player something that can help them, which is the data, and at the same time give them something to do other than sit there and be nervous or be excited or frustrated, all the emotions that we experience as parents watching our kids trying to succeed at something. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of the data from the app is the coach doesn't have to be there. You can look at the data. There's certain ways you can read it that will show you what happened in the match. Where did the player make the errors? Not just how many forehands did they make, or how many forehands they missed, or how many backhand errors they had, or volley errors, or net wins. I mean, that's all good and well, but to me, I don't think that's data that tells a story of what the actual match, or what happened in the match. Like when a player comes back from a match, I ask them, "How did you do?" And I get the same question: "Well, my forehand broke down. I couldn't serve. My second serve stunk." I mean, things like that. I want to be able to ask them better questions, and the data and the charts of this app are going to help, as a coach, help you ask better questions to get a more realistic picture in your mind of what actually happened. And one of the great things about the app is the win-loss ratio chart for the different sections of the point. So 0 to 4, 5 to 8, plus 9. And you'll see where all the errors are happening, or all the winners are not winners, but where they're winning points and what section they're losing points. And that's going to tell a story of where you need to practice, whether you need to practice more in this section or less in this section. So we're excited about that. But I think the future of coaching I think technology is going to change the way we look at coaching. I think the data already that's been released since 2012 is already changing coaches' mindsets to how they're training players. Because ultimately, when it comes down to it, there's only a very, very small percentage of players that make it on tour, that make it in college. So majority of the players that are training, they play it for enjoyment and for fun and for camaraderie and friends and exercise. So I think that coaching, we should look at it in the terms of, is this player in front of me enjoying the process of practicing, right? Because if they don't enjoy it, well, first of all, they're never going to make it to the elite level, because you've got to be able to enjoy it and not burn out and over practice too much and risk of injury. But there has to be an enjoyment of practice. And if they enjoy practice, they'll keep coming back and they'll stay in the sport, and it'll just make for a much pleasant experience for not only the player but the coach and the parent. So I'm hoping that a system like Transforming the Practice Court or other systems that take into account that player experiencing joy and enjoying the process of learning what it means to win and learning what it means to lose, and embrace losing for what it really can teach you and embrace winning for what it can teach you. So that's kind of what this is all about, and it's really about what I'm all about, really, as a tennis coach. Is my greatest desire, I love to see other people succeed in what they're doing, and this system, this mindset is just a small way that I think I can create and give back to the players so they can experience moving forward and becoming better.